Welcome to our channel. In this video, we'll dive deep into the extraordinary journey of one of Hollywood's most captivating figures. From his humble beginnings in Nebraska to his rise as a sought-after leading man, David Janssen left an indelible mark on television history, most notably through his iconic portrayal of Dr. Richard Kimball in The Fugitive. Yet behind the glitz and glamour was a man battling personal demons, struggling with relationships, and facing challenges that would ultimately shape his remarkable, yet heart-rending, story. Join us as we uncover the key moments of Janssen's life and career, shedding light on the triumphs, trials, and the final years that stunned the entertainment world. 1. Early life in Nebraska and the seeds of a performer. David Harold Meyer was born on March 27, 1931, in Naponi, Nebraska, a rural, tight-knit Midwestern community that likely seemed worlds apart from the glitz of Hollywood. Even though his father, Harold Edward Meyer, worked as a banker and provided a certain degree of middle-class stability, there were subtle indicators that David's path might one day lead to the stage or screen. His mother, Bernice Graff, had an artistic streak. She was involved in show business, playing small roles in movies and working as a model. This early exposure would spark a passion in David that became obvious even while he was still an infant, winning a Prettiest Baby contest at just 6 months old. Growing up in the Great Depression and World War II eras, the Meyer household experienced many of the same challenges faced by countless American families. Financial insecurity was not uncommon, and the promise of a steady job in banking may have sounded like a secure future for the elder Meyer. Yet, Bernice's desire to be closer to Hollywood, a place teeming with creative energy, ultimately reshaped David's life. When she settled in California in 1942, she brought David with her, introducing him to a completely different cultural environment than the small-town hush of Naponi. While many children from small rural towns might find Hollywood overwhelming, David was instantly drawn to the excitement. Having a mother with connections in the industry at least gave him a glimpse into its possibilities. That energy fueled his interest in everything from singing to dancing and playing instruments like piano and accordion. By the time he reached early adolescence, David's willingness to perform in any capacity was undeniable. Neighbors, acquaintances, and even local producers saw in him that intangible spark that separates future entertainers from those who simply dabble in the arts. 2. The influence of family. Upheavals. Family life was rarely tranquil for David. His parents divorced when he was quite young, and these sorts of changes can leave deep emotional imprints on any child. Later, when his mother Bernice remarried businessman Eugene Janssen, David took his stepfather's surname. Sometimes, a child in this position might struggle with identity, but for David, the new last name foreshadowed his subsequent public persona. He went from David Harold Meyer to David Janssen, a name that would someday emblazon the credits of some of television's most iconic shows. It's compelling to note how the confluence of personal upheavals, a mother in show business, and his stepfather's stable presence all contributed to forming the young man who was about to embark on a truly prolific career. Living in Los Angeles brought David closer to the film studios that defined mid-century entertainment. Stories circulated about how, even as a teenager, he had a certain gravitas and quiet confidence. Local theaters and small productions took note. The shift to using the surname Janssen might seem minor, but in 1940s Hollywood, one's name could mean everything. Casting directors and producers often scouted new faces, and having a name that stood out just enough could help open doors. Yet, David still needed the talent and drive to make the leap from mere enthusiast to true professional. 3. Early appearances and the path to professionalism. One of the remarkable aspects of David Janssen's story is that by the time he enrolled at Fairfax High School at age 14, he'd already appeared in 6 movies. While these were minor roles, the experience undoubtedly shaped his confidence and work ethic. He also spent a summer performing in Maine's Straw Hat Circuit, the small but vibrant network of summer stock theaters in Ogunquit and Kennebunkport. This experience taught him discipline, as stage work typically involves rigorous rehearsal schedules. Moreover, it's in such intimate community theaters that many performers learn the importance of connecting directly with an audience, a skill that served David well in his film and TV career. Janssen's ambition was evident in his willingness to try his luck on Broadway. Although the plays he rehearsed for in New York didn't make it to the stage, the mere attempt highlights his determination to learn from every opportunity. There's a certain resilience that emerges from facing early setbacks in the performing arts. By the time he returned to Hollywood, David understood that success wasn't guaranteed. Still, with unwavering commitment, he refocused on film work. This would prove the first step toward establishing himself as a bankable name. 4. Hollywood beginnings and the Universal International contract. In 1951, David secured a contract with Universal International for a film titled Yankee Buccaneer. Though the film itself may not be as widely remembered today, it represented a milestone in the young actor's career, the moment he was officially recognized as a promising talent in Hollywood. Such contracts were both a blessing and a constraint. Studios would often lock actors into multi-picture deals that dictated not just which roles they played, but also how they could be promoted and groomed as public figures. Almost as soon as his career took this upward trajectory, however, it was interrupted by mandatory military service. Drafted into the Army in 1952, Janssen served in Special Services at Fort Ord, California. Special Services was known for integrating entertainment with morale-boosting events for the troops. The Hellzapoppin' GI Talent Show in 1953, where Private First Class David Janssen entertained the audience as Master of Ceremonies, is a testament to his ongoing passion. Even in uniform, David remained committed to performing, an attitude that would shape his approach to acting for decades to come. When he completed his service, David returned to Hollywood. This re-entry was a pivotal point. Other actors who served in the military often found it challenging to regain their momentum, especially if new stars had arrived on the scene during their absence. But David's remarkable determination and recognizable aura made it easier for him to pick up where he left off, eventually securing more opportunities for guest appearances and leading parts. 5. Pivotal television roles and grueling schedules. From the mid-1950s onward, television was quickly becoming the new frontier for actors who sought regular visibility. David Janssen seized this opportunity by taking on guest roles in shows like Boston Blackie, Sheriff of Cochise, and The Millionaire. These roles allowed him to demonstrate a range of characters, from the heroic to the morally ambiguous, establishing him as a versatile performer. Perhaps most notable in this early phase was his involvement in the anthology series Dick Powell's Zane Grey Theater. Anthologies were a popular format at the time. They presented standalone stories each week, usually in the Western or dramatic genre. David featured in 4 episodes, each time portraying different characters, which likely honed his ability to inhabit roles swiftly and convincingly. His big break, however, came in 1957 with the lead in Richard Diamond, Private Detective. Stepping into the shoes of a former New York cop turned private detective, David showcased a quintessential film noir sensibility. The show's moody atmosphere, heavy use of shadow, and moral complexity meshed perfectly with David's earnest acting style and rugged good looks. Through this role, he cultivated a persona that would follow him in subsequent parts, a kind of stoic resilience underpinned by flashes of tenderness or wit. Yet, achieving success in Hollywood, especially in television, required a relentless work schedule. By 1961, David was shooting 10 episodes of TV per month while also juggling summer stock work, pilots, and multiple film commitments. This dizzying pace contributed to his professional prowess but also foreshadowed the physical and emotional toll that such a workload can exact. 6. The Fugitive, breaking new ground in television. While David Janssen would complete a variety of projects throughout his career, the role of Dr. Richard Kimball in The Fugitive remains his most iconic. Created by Roy Huggins and produced by Quinn Martin, the series ran on ABC from 1963 to 1967. The premise: a man wrongfully convicted of his wife's murder escapes a prison-bound train and dedicates every waking moment to finding the real killer, instantly captured the public's imagination. It merged elements of suspense, detective work, and moral drama into a single, gripping narrative. What truly set The Fugitive apart was its willingness to break the mold of typical TV dramas at the time. Instead of locking the action into a single city or following a standard procedural formula, the show placed Dr. Richard Kimball in a different town nearly every episode. That constant change of scenery kept viewers on the edge of their seats. No one ever knew what sort of challenges or twists Kimball would face next. Yet The Fugitive was about so much more than outrunning the law. David Janssen brought raw emotion to the role, reminding us that Kimball was an innocent man forced into a life on the run. Viewers didn't just tune in for the pursuit, they wanted to see Kimball wrestle with the heartbreak of losing his old life and the isolation that came with being forever on the move. The show's impact is hard to overstate. Its central idea, a wrongly accused protagonist fleeing authorities, became a blueprint for countless future series and films. Even decades later, you can spot The Fugitive's influence anytime you see an innocent character desperately trying to prove their innocence. Though not always topping the ratings chart during its initial run, The Fugitive had a cultural resonance that outlived its weekly airings. In fact, the final episode, The Judgment, Part 2, set viewership records at the time, a testament to how deeply David Janssen's performance had connected with audiences. 7. Post-Fugitive career, films, guest appearances, and television movies. After The Fugitive ended, David Janssen embarked on a film spree, starring in a dozen feature films between 1968 and 1981. The range included everything from political thrillers, like The Shoes of the Fisherman, to the war epic Inchon. While not all these films were commercial blockbusters, they displayed David's willingness to explore diverse genres. He seemed intent on avoiding being typecast solely as the man on the run, demonstrating a desire to push his artistic boundaries. David also carved out a unique space in made-for-television movies, a medium that emerged forcefully in the late 1960s and early 1970s. Starring in around 20 TV films, including Night Chase, 1970, City in Fear, 1980, and 2 Harry-O films, David proved that television movies could be both commercially viable and creatively fulfilling. In Night Chase, for instance, he played a man thrust into extraordinary circumstances, echoing some of the tension and moral ambiguity found in The Fugitive. Another noteworthy project was Centennial, a sprawling miniseries that told the story of Colorado from the 18th century to the 1970s. David narrated much of it and appeared in the final episode, illustrating his knack for giving historical or epic stories a human touch. Through such roles, he demonstrated that he was more than just a television star, he was a reliable actor who could lend gravitas to big ensemble projects. 8. O'Hara, United States Treasury. In the creation of Harry-O in 1971, David took on the role of Jim O'Hara in O'Hara, United States Treasury, working with iconic producer Jack Webb. O'Hara, a Nebraska county sheriff who loses his wife and child in a fire and later joins the Treasury Department, allowed David to explore themes of grief, purpose, and redemption. However, the series was short-lived. Even so, it kept David's name in the television landscape and set the stage for his final series, Harry-O. Starting in 1974, Harry-O cast David as Harry Orwell, a former San Diego police officer medically retired after a gunshot injury. Living on a disability pension and renovating his boat, Harry Orwell was not your typical brash private eye. He was introspective, often world-weary, and drew on his own vulnerabilities to solve cases. Critics praised the show for its unconventional pacing and character-driven stories. Initial ratings were middling, but the network's retooling made it more accessible. Audiences gradually warmed up to David's understated approach, causing ratings to rise significantly. Yet in a move that enraged David, ABC canceled Harry-O in 1976 to make room for Charlie's Angels, a show that quickly skyrocketed to fame. Adding insult to injury, Farrah Fawcett, one of the leads in Charlie's Angels, had previously appeared on Harry-O as Harry Orwell's girlfriend Sue Ingham. David publicly declared that Harry-O had been his best character, and he strongly felt the network had cut short something that could have endured. True to his word, he never starred in another full-time TV series again, focusing instead on television films and other projects. 9. The struggles behind the scenes, smoking, drinking, and set conflicts. While David's work ethic and on-screen charisma earned him great respect, his personal life was far from stable. He was known to be a heavy smoker, sometimes reportedly up to 4 packs a day. This habit, coupled with regular alcohol consumption, had severe implications for his health. People who worked closely with him mentioned that he would often smoke continuously between scenes, a common practice in mid-century Hollywood but one that carried serious risks. His drinking also became a subject of rumor and concern among colleagues. The film and television industries at the time did not always prioritize mental or physical well-being, and thus many stars were left to cope with high stress, long hours, and the pressures of celebrity on their own. David's intensity could occasionally translate into moments of friction on set. Crew members recounted incidents in which he seemed moody or difficult to direct, although other co-stars insisted that beneath the tension lay a man simply battling internal demons. Success, ironically, can exacerbate personal struggles. The more David appeared on magazine covers and garnered Golden Globe recognition, the more he felt pressured to maintain an image of unwavering professionalism. Hence, the cycle of stress and reliance on smoking and alcohol intensified. In many ways, the public was unaware of the extent of these struggles, only discovering them fully after his untimely death. 10. Marriages and personal heartaches. David's personal life included 2 marriages, both of which carried a weight of emotional turbulence. In 1958, he married model and interior decorator Ellie Graham in Las Vegas. While outwardly glamorous, their relationship was fraught with tension. Friends commented that Ellie's background in design clashed with the unpredictability of David's filming schedule. When he wasn't on set, he often wanted rest or personal time, creating resentment and misunderstanding. After a decade of trying to balance a life in the limelight with a stable home, the marriage ended in a bitter divorce in 1968. Later, in 1975, David married Dani Crane Greco, another model and occasional actress. The relationship had its share of ups and downs, but they remained together until his death. Dani occasionally appeared at industry events with David, projecting an air of unity. Yet behind the scenes, rumors persisted that David's health issues and personal demons strained even this marriage. The constant demands of the entertainment world, premieres, personal appearances, press tours, left limited room for nurturing a truly private life. Nevertheless, they stayed united, and by most accounts, David found in Dani a partner who better understood his creative drive, even if it came with significant challenges. 11. Other relationships and ironic twists. The world of Hollywood often weaves unexpected ironies into its tapestry. One striking example is Farrah Fawcett's involvement with both David Janssen and the subsequent show that replaced Harry O. Fawcett's rise to superstardom in Charlie's Angels contrasted with David's heartbreak over the cancellation of Harry O. Interestingly, Farrah's earlier guest role as Sue Ingham on Harry O. gave her the opportunity to learn from David's on-set professionalism. Years later, when she soared to fame, David found his beloved series shoved aside. Although there's no evidence of personal animosity, the situation is emblematic of how swiftly fortunes can shift in television. Another intriguing element lies in the broader cultural shifts occurring in the 1970s. Audiences were starting to crave different types of entertainment. Shows like Charlie's Angels offered a visually exciting, escapist fantasy, complete with glamorous leads and sensational plots. More introspective shows like Harry O might have appealed to older viewers or those seeking more nuanced storytelling, but network executives were under immense pressure to deliver big ratings. Thus, David's best efforts and the critical acclaim garnered by Harry O simply couldn't outweigh the allure of a fresh phenomenon that promised huge viewership. 12. Sudden death in Hollywood. Shock. On February 13, 1980, David Janssen passed away from a heart attack in Malibu, California. He was only 48 years old, mere weeks away from his 49th birthday. News of his sudden death sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry. Many fans who had grown up watching him as Dr. Richard Kimball or Detective Harry Orwell were stunned and dismayed. Hollywood at the time was grappling with the loss of several iconic figures, both older legends from the golden age and younger actors succumbing to various illnesses or lifestyle-related problems. David's passing underscored the immense pressure he had faced and the toll his habits had taken. Rumors began to swirl in tabloids, speculating about the exact conditions leading to his heart attack, but the fundamental truth remained: an intense workload, heavy smoking, and alcohol consumption had contributed to his deteriorating health. The outpouring of grief at his funeral was palpable, with many of his co-stars, directors, and fans memorializing him as a consummate professional who gave everything to his craft. 13. The legacy of David Janssen. Although David Janssen's life was cut short, his legacy continues to reverberate through modern television and film. The Fugitive alone remains a cultural touchstone, having been remade into a 1993 film starring Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones, garnering Academy Award attention. The original TV series is still studied by film students and television historians as a prime example of suspenseful, character-driven storytelling that shaped the procedural and thriller genres. Moreover, David's ability to move seamlessly between film and television set a precedent for actors who followed. In an era where the line between TV and film was far more rigid, David was one of the few who demonstrated that quality work could be found in both mediums. His Golden Globe win and multiple Emmy nominations further validated the notion that television, though younger than cinema, was a space ripe with serious, innovative storytelling. Fans also remember David for his sincerity and authenticity. Whether playing a wrongfully accused man on the run or a gruff detective nursing old wounds, he brought a depth and commitment to his characters that continues to resonate. Rarely seen behind-the-scenes footage reveals a man who, despite his struggles, consistently sought to elevate his performances. Co-stars have spoken of how he would arrive well-prepared, often going over lines multiple times to ensure every nuance was accounted for. Thank you for joining us in exploring the life and tragic final years of The Fugitive star David Janssen. We invite you to reflect on his legacy, celebrate his achievements, and remember the man behind the unforgettable performances. Stay tuned for more stories that pay tribute to the legends of film and television.